Hey, what's going on, everybody? So I figured I would tell you a mildly interesting, embarrassing tale that happened to me my freshman year of college, and it begins with just like every time you're a freshman, you know the feeling if you've gone through freshman year of high school where you're walking around and you got to find where all your classes are, and it's a way bigger campus than you're used to, and for a while it's just a bit overwhelming. Now, that's kind of what it's like in college, especially if you go to a large university like I do, where it's just difficult to maneuver around. It's so large, and I am already the worst person I know, bar none, with directions. I have to use GPSs to get everywhere, even if I've been there before. I am terrible. I get in the car and I just go into panic mode. I just don't have good sense of direction. I just don't. I get lost all the time. I bet I waste 20 bucks on gas every month on my little lost endeavors, and I still never learn. But anywho, so that can kind of show you how much this seems insurmountable to me to be able to walk around campus and find all these buildings and then go inside the buildings and find the different subsections of them with the classroom. And you may think, well, they're just buildings, how hard can it be? Well, there's a lot of them look the same, and when you get into these buildings, some of them are so old and have been renovated so many times, it's like a labyrinth in there. Just like you'll walk through a hallway and you'll be like, this hallway is like, am I walking into like an Alice in Wonderland playhouse? Is it getting smaller in here? Like, it's weird. But maybe that's just a couple buildings on my campus that need to be updated. Either way, forging ahead. So it's freshman year. It's one of the first weeks. So I had my schedule down. I thought that I knew where I was going, and I had been carrying my schedule with me with all the classes numbers and everything in my backpack. And I would usually do my best to not use it as I was getting to class because I didn't want to be that little faggy-looking freshman who was like, I'm going to look at my schedule because I'm retarded, and then have to walk around campus that way. Because obviously, I had a rep to maintain as a freshman in college. So I'm walking around, and I am 100% sure, or I guess not 100% sure in retrospect, but I walk into this building, and I am so sure that I'm going into the right one. And it's in that little rush right before class begins where everybody's kind of bustling and hustling to their seats and everything. And I walk up to the back because it's a really old auditorium, and the seats are incredibly close together, and the front was already pretty much full, and I had to go to the back, and I had to worm my way through a bunch of people to get to the middle of this aisle. And this is not some trifling worming your way through. This isn't like a theater where you have a little bit of room. This is like you're walking a tightrope by a bunch of people's knees and stepping over backpacks and shit, and it's just really, really difficult. And of course, like a bunch of assholes, they all fill up the sides of both of the rows, but there's like 3 random seats in the middle of it. And so I'm like, okay, I'll just walk through and sit in one of those middle seats. And so I start walking through, and as I'm walking through, I step on a backpack, one of those little backpack straps that you put on your back, and it slipped out from under me. And I almost tripped. And I was like, oh my god, and I kind of did a little quick glance around, and I'm like, oh, I don't think anybody saw me, I'll just, play that off. And as I was walking after that, I just got distracted in my head, just thinking, oh my god, how embarrassing would that be if I tripped in the middle of this aisle and just, that would be so, and as I am thinking that, I misstepped somehow, and I just faceplant, just boom, just fell like right past like 4 people's knees, just right in the middle of this aisle. And at that point, I'm positive, like, everybody has seen someone just fell down in class when everybody's trying to get into their seats, and it was the most mortifying, awful feeling, having to be like, oh my god, I just tripped because I was so focused on what would happen if I tripped, and now I'm going to get to live it. Now I'm going to get to live this experience. And so what I did is I stood up, tried to play it off, looked down in shame as my face glowed like Alpha Centauri, and everybody like a couple snickers, but there's a little bit of empathy there. I was expecting people, it would be like a high school or middle school classroom where people would be like, but it was more of like people looked at you and it was like, oh Jesus, can't imagine if that happened to me, I'd be so ashamed. But either way, what happened next was just the only victory part of it. I stood up and I was about to sit down in my chair, and then I realized, I was like, you know what, I've earned to skip this class. There's no way I'm going to sit in class and have people stare at me and know me as that guy who tripped. I got to get out of here before people remember what my face looks like, because I got to come back to this class every semester, and there's no way, or not every semester, every day, and I don't want to be that kid who tripped. Even if they don't point it out, they're still going to be like, oh, you see that guy right there in the hoodie? Yeah, he ate shit on like the 3rd day, something like that. And so I just got up and I left. Just left. And at that point, like, class was starting, and he was like telling everybody to sit down, and I just walked right out past him. And at that point, you're just so blinded by embarrassment rather, that you just gotta get home. You just gotta get home, and it felt like I ran a mile after it. Heart was beating so fast, just like, my god, I cannot believe you just tripped and just ate shit right in the middle of that class. But thankfully, due to my sneaky Assassin's Creed style movements, subsequently I was able to deftly maneuver out of the class and hopefully people didn't recognize me as the kid who just ate shit on like the third day. So that's it, and I hope you enjoyed this story, and maybe you got a giggle, or a titter, or maybe even a laugh.